have someone in your life who's high maintenance? Or are you a high maintenance person? Do you have needs, or does someone you know have particular needs? And if you don't fulfill their needs, then it causes problems, right? Just like that. Woohoo! Yeah. Are you guys feeling it? Yeah. You feel it? How do you describe that feeling? What is that feeling? So what are we doing right now? We're analyzing a bunch of inventions, yeah? And that's because the inventions are our textbook. So we need to learn from our textbook, yeah? So we're doing a lot of analysis. I don't know, how often have you looked closely at music like this before? Is this something you do, like when you're bored, you analyze music?
Just a little bit of high school.
Yeah, Yeah, it's probably not something that a lot of you have done a lot of, but I think it's really important. If you want to be a musician, you got to look really closely at the music, yeah? So, I've decided to look at number 4 today. So yeah, let's just listen to it. Very elegantly performed by Simone Dinnerstein. All right, thoughts about this one? Comments, questions?
Nice mood.
Sorry?
Nice mood.
Nice mood, yes. Yeah. Okay, what do you think of the? Let's do this. Okay, what do you think of the motive? Okay, so I'm going to call on someone at random to make a comment about this motive, or ask a question about it, or react to it somehow. Sorry, what do you think about this motive? Do you like it, or do you not like it?
She's looking at me.
In a supportive way.
I mean, just feel up and down.
Yeah.
So, there's something about the beat.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something Bach would do, and that's
Yeah.
how he creates something kind of, and then also, not diminished, but is it diminished? And something B flat to C sharp.
Yeah. So C sharp to B flat. Yeah, what is that? This is the same interval we were looking at before. What is that interval? C sharp to B flat. On the page, it looks like a what? On the page, it looks like a seventh, yeah. But it doesn't sound like a seventh, because a seventh, here's an octave. Here's a major 7, minor 7, and then we have this. So it's not a major or minor 7. What kind of 7 is that?
Diminished.
Diminished 7. Yeah. And you get this diminished 7 in minor key, in the minor key especially, because it happens when you raise the leading tone and then you leap to the 6th scale degree. The diminished 7, if you invert the diminished 7, what interval do you have? Yeah, Ken?
Is it a second?
It is a second. What kind of second is it? Augmented second. Yeah. So so that's you've been taught, and I've maybe even taught you that augmented seconds are a no-no, right? So probably diminished 7ths are even worse, right? But there it is. There it is, right in the middle of this motive for this invention. That's cool, right?
Leaps.
Yeah. What's that?
And giant leaps.
It's a giant leap. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. It's, but what Sauri said first of all is it's just a scale up and a scale down, right? So it looks very innocent and almost like totally innocuous until you get that. It's like an onion in the ointment, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's a very strange motive, isn't it? It's simple but intriguing at the same time, right? So this is the magic of Bach, is that he's able to take something that looks very simple, but is actually at the same time very sophisticated, so or surprising or fresh or something. Yeah, this might be my favorite motive in all of the inventions. Yeah. It's brilliant. Okay. All right, cool. So it's a weird motive. There's something else that we should say about it, though, which is it does something really important that all motives do. All Bach's invention motives do this. Can anybody read my mind? Does anybody know what I'm going to say? What's the important thing that it does right at the outset, Charlene?
Does it establish the key?
Exactly. It establishes the key. Right, it starts on D. We're in the key of D minor, yep, which is the same key signature as F major, yeah. And he establishes the key very clearly by starting on D and then giving us the leading tone. And it's like a completely unresolved leading tone too, isn't it? Like it doesn't resolve at all in that voice. You might say, well, it kind of resolves here, but that's in a different voice too. So here that's crazy. Here we see he's breaking 2 of the cardinal rules: augmented seconds or diminished 7ths, and unresolved leading tones are on full display here. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But it does. But the key. But what's really key and non-negotiable, absolutely non-negotiable, is the D and the C sharp. Right. Those 2 things. Those are the 2 notes that you need in order to establish D minor. You need a D and you need a C sharp. Those are the 2 most important notes. And if you have those 2 notes and they're featured prominently, like they are here, like they're featured on the downbeat of each measure, then that is enough to establish the key of D minor. Okay, so our next assignment is to analyze one more invention. We're going to go full bore with analyzing 4 full inventions, which is great. As soon as we finish that, then our next assignment will be to start writing your own inventions. And the first step is going to be to write 5 motives. You're going to write 5 different motives and then choose one of them to work with. And so one of the most important things to keep in mind when you're writing an invention motive is that it has to establish the key clearly. Yeah, it has to.
So would we technically be able to also break those rules like he did when we read our motives?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, you they're not rules. The things that are presented to you as if they were rules, like augmented seconds and unresolved leading tones, They're not rules. They're just they're the most common modes of behavior, you could say, or it's like on average this is what typically happens, or no, it's not even that really. It's like what is it? They're not rules. They're principles. There's a principle behind the avoiding of the augmented second. There's a principle behind that. And what that principle is a little bit harder to articulate than to just say, don't write augmented seconds, right? It's easier to just say, don't do that. It's much more difficult to understand the principle behind it. Like one thing you could say about leading tones is they are, they're high maintenance. They have needs, Did anybody have someone in your life who's high maintenance? Or are you a high maintenance person? Do you have needs, or does someone you know have particular needs? And if you don't fulfill their needs, then it causes problems, right? Or maybe you have a pet or something, an animal in your house that, yeah. Yes?
Yeah, pets. Yeah.
Pets that are high maintenance, yeah. Yeah, so the leading tone is like that. It's high maintenance. It has certain needs that have to be fulfilled at certain times, and it's like I don't know, if you have a pet that needs to go for a walk, you can delay it for a certain amount of time, and that's okay. But eventually it has to happen. And maybe if you do delay it, then the pet will be like super excited to go on a walk, more than they would if you did it when you're normally supposed to go on a walk, right? So delaying it can be, can result in good things can result from that, right? And like always observing the rule no matter what in a sort of like robot way, then you might miss opportunities for expression or dramatic. So you have to understand the underlying principles. I don't know if any of that made any sense, but. Yeah, feel free to push the boundaries though, and if you are breaking the rules in ways that are not appropriate, then I'll try to notice that. I do struggle to grade things really thoroughly, as you may have already noticed, but I try, and especially if we can meet in person, because I like meeting in person and looking at stuff together with you. So anyway, okay. All right, let's go on. We could spend all day talking about this. All right, so what happens next? We have this very brilliant, weird motive, and then what happens to the motive next? Zachary is not here today. Amanda is also not here. Hurts my feelings when people don't come to class. Christian.
I guess transposed out.
Yeah, transpose, good. Yeah, good. And that's you guys have all made lists. I haven't made a list in class yet, but we will, of things you can do to the motive, right? And transposition is the first thing on that list because that's the most common thing that happens. By far, that's by far the most common thing that Bach will do to develop the motive. So yeah, he transposes it. What interval does he transpose it to? Down an octave, yeah. And that's also what happens in most of the inventions. Not all of them, but most of them get transposed at the octave. Okay, and then what do we have against that transposed motive here? What is this? In this measure, what chord is that? Amaya. One, yeah, good, yep. D, good, yeah, D minor, good. So we can put a lowercase d up there, or we can put a 1 here. Yeah, so it's just a 1 chord, arpeggiated. Super simple, right? What about the next measure? Okay, take 30 seconds to think about it. What chord is that? Patrick.
7 diminished.
Yeah, good. 7 diminished, which is also a C sharp diminished chord. Yeah, good. Okay, so yeah, so we can sort of reverse engineer now. We're in the key of D minor, and now we can say that first measure is clearly a 1 chord, yeah, And the second measure is clearly a 7 chord. Then what happens in measure 5? What happens in measure 5 and 6? Indiana.
The motive goes up an octave from the first
Uh-huh, good.
and then in the left hand it's the same arpeggios but down an octave.
Yeah. Good, yeah. So does that mean this is a 1 chord again?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, good. So the motive gets transposed down an octave and then up an octave, and then this thing here shows up right there. So these two parts here switch places with each other. That's called invertible counterpoint, which is another fancy term you can impress your friends with at your next dinner party. Your friends will be sure to invite you back for subsequent dinner parties if they know that they can hear erudite sounding music theory terms from you. Okay, good. And then there's something slightly different that happens here. You see that? It's a slightly different than this, right?
Yeah.
But is it the same chord?
Same chord.
Same chord, yeah.
Different voicing? Is it one word or just
Yeah,
different
yeah,
note or-
exactly. Yeah, different voicing, yeah. Yep. It's the same notes, just voiced differently, yeah. That's something that jazz musicians talk about a lot about, right? Is voicing. Okay, cool. Well, pretty straightforward so far, right? All right, what happens in measures 7 and 8 then? So hey, what do you think? It's developing the main subject.
Yes.
Yeah, good. Okay, cool. Yeah, so measure 7 is D minor again. And then measure 8, you're saying it's G minor? Yeah, so what is G minor in the key of D? 4. Good.
4.
Yep. So that's your 4 chord. Good. All right, that's the first time now. We've had 1, 7, 1, 7, 1, 7, 1, and then finally we get a 4 chord. Okay, this is very typical of Baroque music. Okay, this is how Baroque music works. You really establish that dominant tonic thing first for a while, longer than you might think, and then finally you get a little bit of color shift by bringing in the 4 chord. Okay, and then yeah, in the right hand we have the motive. So we have the motive in the right hand, but it's a little bit different, isn't it? Yeah? How is it different? Yeah, that first note is sort of bent out of shape. Right? The first note should be a C. Right? But instead it's an F. And the reason for doing that oh yeah, so 1 chord, 4 chord, and then we have measures 9 and 10. Okay, so what happens in measures 9 and 10? Yeah, it's a C major chord, right?
Yeah.
C major, which is, which is this. Yeah.
Is it circle of fifth situation?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah, if we go back and look, here's a D, D down to G, down to C.
He could have that.
Okay, now this major 7, or the 7 built on the, I shouldn't say lowered 7th scale degree, but the normal, the natural 7th scale degree. This is a chord that it doesn't really belong in the key of D minor, because what does it belong to? Well, we're gonna find out here in a minute. All right, so we have. So what chord do we have in measure 10? Everybody think about it for a minute. Yeah, good. F major. Yeah, what's the significance of F? Yeah, relative major, yeah, good. So, does that mean that we've modulated to the key of F? Kiana?
I was gonna ask, so would you look at the 7th chord as like the 5?
Ah, very good, yes. So we can go back here now and say, if we're moving to the key of F, then we can interpret that as a 5 chord. And then this would be a 1 chord in the key of F. Yeah. And does he stay in the key of F? There's an easy way to tell. What's the easy way to tell? Yeah.
I don't see any C sharp.
Exactly. Good. There's no C sharps. So if there are no C sharps, you cannot be in the key of D minor. Let me repeat that. If you do not see C sharps, you cannot be in the key of D minor. Why is that important for you to understand? Because you're going to have to write something in a minor key, and you have to understand that if you don't give me the raised leading tone, then you're not in that key. The raised leading tone is essential to establish the key of D minor. Yeah. Good, yes, so we're clearly in the key of F. This is exactly what we expect him to do too, right? The last invention we looked at was in the key of C minor? What was it? C minor, right? Yeah. And the first place he modulated to was E flat major. Yeah. So this is the move. This is the move for the Baroque period and even all the way through the classical period and even into most of the Romantic period. If you have a sonata or something like that, the first key you modulate to is the relative major when you're in the minor key. Okay, cool. So
Could
yeah.
you say it again?
Say it again.
Yeah, could you say that again? Or the
Yeah.
last thing you said?
Yeah, the first key you modulate to is the relative major.
It's always up? Bach minor key major? It was like, wait. Is that really? I never.
Yeah, I mean, I would never say always, but this is what's that?
I thought you said that, so I was like, wait.
I did probably say always,
Okay.
and I actually feel fairly comfortable saying that. Yeah, I would.
Are you meaning it to Bach? Baroque?
Baroque music, yeah, and like classical sonatas. If a sonata by Haydn or Mozart that's in a minor key, the second theme, the secondary theme group is always going to be in the relative major. Yeah, I mean that's 99.8% of the time.
Is it major modulated in minor?
No.
It's only for minor?
Yeah, it's only for minor. So if you start in the major key, then the first place you modulate to is the, who knows? Did you say it? Dominant. Yeah, exactly. The dominant. Yeah, and we saw that in the first invention, the first place that he starts in C major, right? We go back to the first one, it starts in C major, and then you start to see these F sharps popping up. And then you get this very strong cadence on the 5 of the 5 to the 5, right? So it goes to the dominant. Yeah, and in classical music, when you have sonatas, the first theme is in the dominant, the first theme is in the tonic, and the second theme is in the dominant. So we're in the key of F in measure 9 and 10. And then what happens in measure 11? We're just going measure by measure here. Yeah, you're saying 4 chord in measure 11? Yeah? Yeah. Yep, because there's lots of B flat, D, F. But notice how the left hand kind of outlines a G minor triad. Right? Da-da, da-da-da. But the right hand gives you B B flat D F, which is the 4 chord. So is it a 4 chord or a 2 chord? Both. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's kind of both. Or it's kind of like they're the same thing. Or maybe if you have a jazzy frame of mind, you could think of it as a 2/7 chord, if you want. I might be okay with that. Nice and jazzy. A lot of jazz musicians love Bach and have made lots of like jazzified versions of Bach's music. So yeah, it works well. All right, do you want to call that a 2/7? Let's go for it. Yeah? Let's go for it. Okay, cool. And what's happening with the motive in these measures? What's happening with the motive, Sharina? Nobody's here. The people who are here are missing a really great lecture. This is one of my best. Yeah, what chord is measure 12? Yeah, what chord is that? So beautiful, yeah? What do you expect to have after a 2 chord or a 4 chord? 5 or 7. Yeah. So it's, and in the key of F, the 7 chord would be E, G, B flat, and that's what we get, plus a D. So it's a 7, half diminished 7. Because the D to the E up to the D is a minor 7, and then you have a diminished triad on the bottom, right? E, G, B flat, and then with if you have a diminished chord and then a minor 7 on top, that's a half diminished 7 chord, right? If you lower that D flat or D to a D flat, then you get a fully diminished 7 chord. The half diminished 7 chord is the best chord in all of tonal music, by the way. The half diminished 7 chord, yeah, it's lovely. Okay, what chord do we have in measure 13 again? Timothy.
Okay. It looks like a 1 chord, but then I get that E thing, so it makes me think it's a 5 of something.
Yeah. No,
but maybe not actually.
Yeah, it's a 1 chord for sure. I mean, we have to have a 1 chord after a 7 chord, right? So now I actually want to go back and take the 7 off of here. Because, whereas I'm kind of okay with a 2/7, I'm absolutely not okay with a 1/7. Like, that's not a thing. Did you say secondary dominant?
It could be, but then that's a major.
It would have to be, you would have to have an E flat. Yeah. If
So
you had an
let's
E
call it
flat.
1, yeah.
If he was going to B flat, he could do that, but he's not. So, so that's not and this is if you call this a 7 chord, it's a major 7. Yeah, which again is very jazzy, right? That's the jazz thing to do. Okay, cool. What chord do we have in measure 14? This measure here. Six, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. I think it's a 6 because it seems to be based on D, the D there. It's a minor 7. 7 question mark? Measure 15. What's going on in measure 15? So we could take those 3 measures together maybe. What's happening in 15, 16, and 17? It's so beautiful. Verity, what do you think?
That third measure of that line is cadence.
Okay, good, yeah. So there's a strong cadence. How do you know that?
It breaks from the rhythm that it's been using.
Okay, yeah.
Piece in the motive.
Exactly, yes, very good. So up to this point, the only thing that we've had is either 16th notes, 6/16 notes, or 3/8 notes, right? Okay, well, with the exception of that measure and this measure, but here for the first time we have 16th notes and 8th notes in the same hand, yeah. So that's a dead giveaway that we have a cadential formula. Yes, that is a cadential formula. Right, very common. That's so, do. That's super, 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 super common in Baroque music. What about the right hand? Is this also a cadential formula? Okay, yeah, this is a very useful one. So I invite you to take note of it and consider using it in your own music. Yeah. Okay, and what key does he cadence on? F, yeah. So that means that this is probably a 5 chord. What chord do we have in measure 15? 5, yeah. Yep. Yep, so this is a 5 chord. So then what do we have in measure 16? Or what do we expect to have in measure 16? All right, yeah, so let's call that a 1/6. Okay, but do we get a 5 chord right away? Actually, in measure 17, is that a 5 chord right away? Yeah, so the 2 chord in the key of F is G minor. The 4 chord is B flat major. And we have all of those notes. We have all those notes here. So it's again this sort of like 2/4 hybrid thing, or smash up thing, yeah. We could just oversimplify it and just say 4, and then you could count this G as an anticipation, maybe. There's multiple ways to look at that, but there's definitely there's definitely a predominant sound happening here. So yeah, we have a little bit of 4, 5. Yeah, just a straight 5. There's not even a third there, but there's a little anticipation, and then 1 in F. Yeah, good. Cool. This is so much fun, guys. Maybe I'm weird, but I like to analyze music. So we're clearly in the key of F at the bottom or in the middle of this page, and then this is where we get that long trill. What chord is that in the last measure? So you got an F sharp in the bass, and if you look at these notes here, clearly outlines what chord. Yeah, it's some sort of 5/7 or dominant 7, and the root of that chord is D, right? Yeah, so that's a D7. And it feels like a dominant chord, so it should be dominant of. D is dominant of what? D is dominant of G, yeah. Yeah. So, so you could say we're in G minor, and this is a 5/7. Good. And then in measure 24, we clearly get G, you see a G and a B flat. So that's clearly the one chord in G minor. Let's see. Okay, what chord is that? But you can also just think, what does it feel like? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, E is the note on the bottom. That's true. But it's similar to. It's like almost exactly like this one, isn't it? All right. So we have. And then on the next page we get. So it's so if we look at these notes here, you can see it's a C7 chord. So C is 5 of what? F, yeah. So then, yeah. So some kind of F, you could say that's 5, 7. And then in the next measure we get, yeah, it clearly lands on an F and an A, which is the 1 of F. But then right after that, because this is D minor, if you look at the D and the F, which would be 4 of A, yeah, Yeah, you could do that. So we're clearly going to the key of A minor, right? So maybe we put a little A here, and we say 4 of A. Because then in measure 27, what chord is that in measure 27? You can see in the left hand you've got an E, G sharp, B. And then in the right hand there is a D, so we can add that to the there as well. What chord is that? Yeah, it sounds like another dominant 7, yeah. And what's the root of that chord? E, yeah. So you got an E7. And in the key, and what is E the dominant of? A, yeah, good. So we can call that a 5. And maybe you can even put a 7 there if you want. And then at the very beginning of measure 28, we get a 1. Of course, then it's immediately you get the G sharp. So it's like it starts as a 1, but then immediately goes to like a 7, maybe. So yeah, you can see how sometimes he will stay on one chord for the whole measure. Yeah. Sometimes he'll give you the chord that you're supposed to resolve to on the first 16th note of that measure, but then immediately go to somewhere else. Yeah. So it's extremely fluid that way. Yeah. So really, he's not really modulating though to the key of G minor here or to the key of F. He's kind of just passing through them very quickly, and is doing what's called secondary dominance. So he's giving you the 5 of G, the 5 of G, and then the 5 of F, and then going on to A minor and staying in A minor. Okay, and then the trill. I'm playing it really well. And the trill, anybody want to say anything about the harmony in this passage? So what is the trill doing? And what note is it on? And why is that note important? Yeah, so it's just really extending that dominant. When you hold a note like that throughout a bunch of other stuff going on, we often call that A. Does anybody know what that's called? Yeah? Pedal. Yeah, who said that? Pedal, yes. That's called a pedal. Anybody know why that's called a pedal? Okay, because you're hearing it constantly, yes. And the organ is the instrument that has pedals at your feet, right? And when you're playing the organ, it's really easy to, it's actually, have any of you ever tried to play pedal organ with your feet? Have you ever tried that? So it's really hard to play with your feet. But what's easy to do is to just put your foot down and hold a note, right? So that's what organists a lot of times do. So they just play that, put their foot down on the E and just hold it there, right? Now piano and harpsichord, the note doesn't sustain the way it does on an organ, so that's why it's a trill, so that it can sustain. Yeah. Now, does that mean that every chord in measure 29 through 33 is also a dominant chord? 29 is clearly a dominant chord, I would say, because it starts on G and ends on D. But then, yeah, 30, did somebody say A minor? Yeah, okay, yeah. I think that's an A minor chord. Because it starts on C, ends on A, and there's an E in the left hand. And the D and the G sharp and the F sharp are just passing tones. Yeah? So we could say 5. A minor in the key of A minor is 1, yeah? But it's a 1-6-4, yeah? So it's a 1-6-4. Okay, so this is, what do you guys know about 1-6-4 chords? Do you guys know anything about 1-6-4 chords? Yeah?
Second inversion.
Yeah, it's a second inversion. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and when you take a 1 chord and you play second inversion, it doesn't really sound like a tonic chord at all anymore, does it? It feels very unstable because it's supposed to go, right? So that 1-6-4 chord is super unstable, doesn't feel like the tonic at all. So we almost always find it right at the point of a cadence, right? Because this sound is very cadential, right? Right? So it's so commonly found at a cadence that it's sometimes called a cadential 6-4 chord. Cadential 6-4. But is this a cadence? No, this is not a cadence. Let's quickly analyze the rest of the measures too. The next measure is yeah, it's weird because the C is a non-chord tone. That first C, which is kind of surprising because it's so prominent. But if you ignore the C and you just look at the D and the B and the G sharp, then that's clearly a 5-7. Yeah. Okay, then the next measure feels similar to measure 30, right? It's got an E and an A and a C in prominent positions. So it's back to the 1-6 again. And what do you expect the next measure to be? Did you say something about a half diminished 7 chord?
Yeah, like major.
But not in this measure, right?
Well, for some reason I have 7 at A minor, but maybe I.
Yeah. Yeah, this measure is interesting, actually. I mean, the easy way out is to just say, well, it's just another 1 chord, right? Because you've got A, C, E there, right? So it's another 1-6-4 chord. But if you take the F sharp into consideration, then it sounds like that, which this is, by the way, my favorite chord. This is the half diminished 7 chord. Right? F sharp, A, C is a diminished triad, and then F sharp to E natural is a minor 7. That's a half diminished 7 chord. If I lower the E flat to, or if I lower the E to an E flat, then it's a fully diminished 7 chord on F sharp. Yeah? But if you leave it as an E natural, that's a half diminished 7 chord. Basically, this F sharp feels super awesome. I love it. But I'm not sure we can analyze it as being part of the harmony. I think it might be best to call it a non-chord tone. Yeah.
Yeah, I think also in the sequence, it looks like the first note before those leaps are kind of being not counted in the harmony.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Like almost,
Yeah, good point. Yeah, so, sometimes they can be, but usually they're not. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yes.
I don't want to like screw up the direction we're going with.
Let's screw it up.
I feel like it'd almost be a better way to analyze it. Like I think there's value in doing it measure by measure and trying to like extract harmony. But what I feel like is so much more clear is like from measure 30 to like 35, there's a clear ascending line in every first note of every measure, which could all be just analyzed as a giant 5/7. Broadly speaking, with this melodic ascending motion that still spells out the dominant, or it's at least tonicizing that A minor.
So you're saying if you take the first note of each measure?
Yeah, we have C, D, E, F sharp.
D, E, F sharp. Oh, G sharp. I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And F sharp is just a part of that ascending melodic.
Yeah,
motion.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Because to try to like mix that in with a flow chart of like, all right, where's this F sharp going? Like, how's this? I feel like this is
Yeah.
not what Bach's going for.
Yeah. Well, there's right. Exactly. I mean, yeah. That. So let's. What can we take from that? Well, there is an underlying harmony happening here, but there are also just melodies going on, and the melodies have a certain logic of their own, which we call voice leading, right? The logic of the melody is called voice leading. So there's voice leading happening, and then there's sequences that are happening, and he has to arrange those melodies so that they line up with a chord, but then there'll be lots of notes that don't line up with the chord because it's a melody. Yeah, very good point. The other reason why there's an F sharp there is because he's doing this sequence, right? That's the other reason why it's there, just because it's a natural part of that sequence. And also, the other thing to notice is that he's doing something slightly weird to the motive as well, right? Starting in measure 30, it's sort of like the motive, but it's like bent out of shape a little bit, bending out of shape slightly so that it can climb, right? And he does that by, the interval that's being changed is this one right here, right? That's a fifth. In the original motive, it was a seventh, right? So he makes it a fifth there, and then you get the seventh, right? So he like undershoots it in order to then go above, in a way, right? And then he does that again. Except that this one is a diminished fifth, otherwise known as a tritone, so it ratchets up the dissonance, and then together with that half-step trill and the tritone, there's a lot of tension being built, which is then finally relieved right here. And we're like, feels so good, right? It's amazing. It feels good. Okay. Yeah. So good. Yeah. You can analyze chords till the cows come home, and then also miss the melodic thing that's happening, right? So there's both things are happening simultaneously. Yeah. Counterpoint is like it's like two melodies combining together, but it's also kind of the concept of harmony and melody combining in a contrapuntal way, right? Good. Yeah. Thank you, Zane, for pointing that out. But as far as a chord there, I still think you would probably call this a 1-6-4 chord. Yeah, because then in measure 34, we get dominant chord, and then you get this very nice resolution and measure 35, and then your cadential formula to really give you that strong sense of yeah, right? This is what tonal music can do. This is that feeling that you get when you arrive here. I don't know, how would you describe that feeling? Just like that. Yeah. Are you guys feeling it?
Yeah.
You feel it? How do you describe that feeling? What is that feeling? Profound. Profundity. Yes. Yeah. Awesome, right? Awesome possum. Okay, then we get the 5/7 in the measure 34, and then the 1 in measure 35, which is super satisfying, but it's not as satisfying as it can be because there's a C there and not an A, which we still have this pent-up energy that then finally gets fully dissipated by this very strong cadence, and then this perfect authentic cadence that happens right there. Yeah, so then we get 5/7 here again, and then more 5/7, and then 1. Actually, 7. But if you look at these notes here, what chord are these notes? Actually, you can include this too. You have a D, an F, and an A. What chord is that in? What's the Roman numeral for that in the key of A minor? Everybody, 4 chord. Yeah. So this is a 4 chord, and then 5/1. Yeah. So we do get a little bit of a 4 in there, which is great because that gives the cadence even that much more strength. Because doing the 4/5/1 feels even more satisfying. Yeah, so there's a whole lot of stuff going on here, a lot of interesting stuff happening. Now, what's also really interesting is that as soon as he went to all that trouble to build up all that tension and then give us this extremely satisfying cadence on A, and then he immediately gives us the B flat and E flat right away. So here's another example of it's a 1 chord on the first 16th note, but then almost immediately it's no longer a 1 chord anymore, right? Right, you can hear it sort of shifting or slithering out of the 1 chord right away, yeah? So he can modulate instantaneously like that, just by introducing the different accidentals. Okay, good. So then what key are we in now? Riley, yes.
G minor.
You raised your hand and your name came up. Sorry?
G minor.
G minor, yeah, good. How do you know it's G minor?
Because G minor has the B flat and the E flat, as well as that it also has the raised 7th in the next measure.
Yep.
With F sharp.
F sharp, yep, exactly right. Good. And how long does he stay in G minor? Or where does he leave G minor?
You can analyze measure 40 as being the 1 of G minor.
Mm-hmm.
But if you kind of look further, you see that he kind of gets out of that. He gets rid of the flats, particularly E flat in measure 41.
Yep.
So it looks like he's modulating to F major there and using the G minor as a 2 of F major.
Okay, yeah, because you have a little bit of an F there, yeah. And this measure here, yeah, that's clearly C. Oh yeah, because he gets rid of the E natural. Yeah, good. So that's, if you're at F, then that's 5/1, good. Good, okay. So does he stay in the key of F, or does he go somewhere else? Yeah, the C sharp. So C sharp definitely doesn't belong to the key of F.
Is he going to D?
Exactly, yeah. Don't have to overthink it. Yeah, the C sharp is the leading tone of D. So he's clearly going to the key of D minor. Measure 43. So again, another example of where he lands on one chord right at the beginning of the measure, and then he immediately goes somewhere else later in the measure. And measure 43, you can analyze measure 43 as 6/4. Oh, I was going to say something else about 6/4 chords, by the way. Yeah, so if you look at the yeah, it's an A major chord, and A is the dominant of D. Yeah, and the G is part of that, the E is part of that. A major, but it's kind of it's almost like a 6/4, sort of like 6/4 because it starts with the 6 there. And 6/4 chords are weird. 6/4 chords are have to be treated carefully. I wanted to go back actually and talk about this. I forgot. I want to talk about this 6/4 chord here. This 1/6/4 is often called the cadential 6/4 because it happens so often at cadences. But here it's not a cadence. Instead, it's a pedal, right? So that's called a pedal 6/4. Okay. So there's two kinds of tonic 6/4 chords. The 6/4 chord's built on the tonic. You can have the cadential 6/4 or the pedal 6/4. And then there's one other kind. Does anybody want to get major music theory nerd points by telling us what is the third type of tonic 6/4 chord that's possible? Zen, you want to claim some nerd points?
Sure. Passing 6/4.
Passing 6/4, yeah, exactly. Christian knew that too. Yeah. So it's good to pause for just a moment and mention the fact that the 1/6/4 chord can only occur in three places. It can only occur as the cadential 6/4, or much less commonly as a pedal 6/4, or even less commonly than that as a passing 6/4. If the bass, and you would have a passing 6/4 because of melodic voice leading. If the bass line just happens to be passing through, and it happens to land on the 5 of the 1 chord, then it can be okay. But generally you want to avoid the 1/6/4 chord though. Unless it's at a cadence, you want to avoid it. So when you start writing your own music, watch out for that 1/6/4 chord. Okay, good. And then the 5/6/4 is also weird. It doesn't feel right. So that's why this measure feels a little bit off kilter. But it makes sense because, again, it has to do with the melody, right? So we make it's like making a concession in a way for the melody. Okay, but then we get, we're in the key, so now we're in the key of D minor, yeah? So we have 5 and then 1 here, and it's a 1/6, it's first inversion, yeah, D minor, and we're kind of also back now to the original theme, right, or the original motive. We're right back there now, except up an octave, yeah? So we feel like we've come full circle, right? And then the rest of the piece is just kind of like a little bit of a coda, right? And I mean, it probably mostly goes 1/5, 1/5, yeah? And then there's maybe a little bit of a, yeah, here's a little bit of a, possibly a little bit of a 4 or 2, and then 5, 5, 1. A little 4 action in here. 5, 1. All right, we just did all your homework. How's that? That's a good deal, right? Cool. Well, that's fun. I enjoyed that. All right, so we're almost to the point where we can start writing our own. Are you excited to do that? We're going to analyze one more. I'm kind of overdoing it with the analysis, and the reason for that is because you probably won't get a chance to overdo it unless I take that chance. Because if you read textbooks, the textbooks do the work for you. You read them, you think you learned something, you never apply it, therefore you forget it immediately, you didn't learn anything. If you grapple with the music itself and you try to analyze it yourself, or we try to analyze it as a class, and we do it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, then it maybe will start to sink in. Okay, so we're going to do one more. The next one is we're going to do 14.